Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 10.
Family, friends, and well-wishers are at Hector Airport right now welcoming home the latest veterans from the Red River Valley who just arrived from a quick trip to Washington, D.C.
It's a story that's always great to tell. Here's a live look from Hector International. There are 90 veterans, members who have served in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. They were flown to our nation's capital by the North Dakota-Minnesota Veterans Honor Flight. The group raises much of the money necessary to get the vets there. Then they organize volunteers and support staff that make sure everyone gets there, enjoys themselves, and returns safely. The tour included stops at many war memorials, Arlington National Cemetery, and other Washington, D.C. sites. Valley News Team's Lisa Bedeau was on the trip, and you can look for her stories in the coming days.
The vets are getting home just in time. We're warming up tomorrow. Not a lot, but it'll feel good to say we're in the 60s at least. Hutch, how about tonight?
Well, tonight we have a few clouds and some south winds that are picking up, and it's the combination of clouds and wind that will keep us from getting too cold overnight. Still, temperatures will slip into those 40s, lower 40s for many of us as we head towards daybreak. However, after a pretty quiet day of weather on Tuesday, it looks like a wild Wednesday. Rain and even a few flakes of snow are possible. I'll have the latest in your hour-by-hour forecast here in just a few moments.
Better get some yard work done tomorrow morning, huh?
Not a bad idea.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Troopers are on the scene of a crash on Interstate 94 in the eastbound lane. The call came in around 9:15 this evening of a truck hitting a car that had been parked along the interstate between I-29 and 45th Street. The actual location is close to the tri-level. One person was taken to the hospital with unknown injuries. There are, as you can see, quite a few emergency responders on the scene still. Traffic seems to be slowed in the area, but no lanes are being blocked off. We will bring you more information as we get it.
One person was taken to a hospital after a beat truck collided with a tractor near Georgetown, Minnesota. This happened late this afternoon. Authorities say it happened on the 10,000 block of 160th Avenue North. They say the tractor was turning into a farm and the beat truck was trying to pass the tractor, but instead hit it. Both drivers had injuries, but they weren't considered to be life-threatening, and only one needed to go to the hospital.
An ex-priest accused of molesting two young boys in Fargo in the 90s is headed to prison for 20 years. Fernando Sayasaya was convicted of sexually assaulting two brothers under the age of 15 between 1995 and 1998. The victims are now in their 30s. Three other victims have since come forward. Sayasaya was extradited back to the States last December after nearly 2 decades hiding in the Philippines. During today's sentencing, Sayasaya apologized to the victims.
I'd just like to say I'm regretfully sorry from the bottom of my heart if I caused pains to the victims.
Lieutenant Greg Warren with the West Fargo Police Department worked on this case. Following the sentencing, he said that he didn't know if there would ever be closure for the families involved, but that they were glad they had their day in court today.
The Cheyenne Street construction is putting another burden on people living on that road. Now residents have to park on the street, climbing over the mess that you see on your screen to get into their homes. The street foreman said it's an inconvenience that they'll have to deal with for a week or two.
Contractors right now are in there redoing the sidewalk and the aprons that go to their yards and to their driveways and get it all cleaned up. To make it easier so the contractors and everybody can get around, the contractor left the people park on the new street.
Birnbaum added that this construction project is a big one. It's going to take some time, but once it's done, it's going to look good. He says that the Cheyenne Street construction project is on schedule.
Animal owners have the basic responsibilities of feeding and exercising their pets, but a recent study is now saying to add cutting back time on your cell phone to that list of responsibilities.
Valley News Team's Katie Opperly spoke with a local clinic to tell us why it's important to put down the phone.
Just making sure that they feel like they're a part of your family, because they are, just make sure that they feel that way.
That's why a new study is warning pet owners against spending too much time on their smartphones.
They depend on you to provide any activity, whether it's physical or mental. And that's your responsibility as a pet owner, of course, to provide that for them.
The study says dogs may become more anxious or possibly suffer from depression when owners overuse their phones.
They don't know what you're doing. They just see that you're distracted and not giving them the attention that they've been waiting all day for, and it's disappointing.
Greer Cruz says no one wants to feel ignored or unwanted, and this is what can lead to an issue.
So it's not really the phone itself that is upsetting to the pet, but more the lack of attention or just boredom.
She says when you're on your phone, you aren't giving your pet proper physical or mental stimulation. This can lead to destructive behavior and various mental health issues. Disinterest or laziness could be a sign that something is wrong.
Just kind of thinking about how the pet feels, their emotions, and you have a pet for a reason. You need to be responsible.
In Fargo, Katie Opperly, Valley News Live.
It's advised that interaction with your pet is the best way to prevent mental health problems. For a link to the study, go to our website at valleynewslive.com and click on this story.
Starting tomorrow, 5th Avenue North will be closed to through traffic between University Drive and 14th Street North in Fargo. Crews will be installing private utilities. 5th Avenue is expected to be closed for 4 days.
North Dakota elections officials are now requiring a street address for voters and are now asking leaders of the state's American Indian tribes to make sure their members have one. Some American Indians say they're not assigned on reservations, but the state says getting an address is a simple process. Lawyers for some Native Americans appealed to the Supreme Court, saying the state's voter ID requirements will lead to confusion in the upcoming election. Native American voters could be crucial in a tight North Dakota U.S. Senate race.
Republican candidate Kevin Cramer is ahead in the latest polling by Valley News Live on the U.S. Senate race in North Dakota. The poll, conducted by Strategic Research Associates of Austin, Texas, has Cramer in front of incumbent Democrat Heidi Heitkamp by 10 percentage points, 51 to 41. There's a margin of error of almost 4%.
Now, the difference is in the male voters, where Cramer garners 56.5% to Heitkamp's 35%. Females are virtually tied at 46.6% to 46.5%. A total of 650 likely voters were surveyed between September 17th, and the 27th on both landline and cell phones.
In another question we asked, 60% of the likely voters in North Dakota support the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court. 27% were opposed. Keep in mind, the poll was conducted during the disclosure that the judge may have engaged in sexual misconduct while in high school or college before last week's testimony by Kavanaugh and one of his accusers before the Senate Judiciary Committee. We will have more results from our polling in the coming days. You'll be able to follow on valleynewslive.com.
How far will the FBI go in its investigation of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh? There's a lot of back and forth over who should be interviewed, and today the White House is telling the FBI, talk to anyone you want as long as this is wrapped up in a week. Reporter Blaine Alexander's in Washington, D.C. with the latest on this battle to fill the Supreme Court.
President Trump doing little to define the scope of the investigation into Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh.
I think the FBI should interview anybody that they want within reason. But you have to say within reason.
While he ordered the new background check, he says the terms are being dictated by senators, specifically Senate Republicans.
But I'm instructing them as per what I feel the Senate wants. The Senate's making this decision.
The White House initially directing the FBI to question only 4 witnesses, but today bending to mounting pressure, authorizing the questioning of anyone necessary with a deadline this Friday. Senate Democrats identifying 24 potential interview subjects. The president signaling he is open to more witnesses, but the investigation, he says, needs to move fast.
We don't want to go on a witch hunt, do we?
When asked about this moment from Kavanaugh's testimony,
I liked beer. I still like beer.
President Trump admitting even he was caught off guard.
I was surprised at how vocal he was about the fact that he likes beer, and he's had a little bit of difficulty.
And he mused about his own lifelong decision not to drink.
Can you imagine if I had? What a mess I'd be. I'd be the world's worst.
The president saying he is keeping an open mind.
I'm waiting just like you. Certainly, if they find something, I'm going to take that into consideration.
Casting himself as a spectator, too.
President Trump says a comprehensive investigation would be good for Kavanaugh and that Senate Democrats have treated him unfairly.
Still to come on Valley News Live at 10. Halloween is just around the corner, and Americans are expected to spend a frightening amount of money this year.
Temperatures across North Dakota peaking in the 50s today, some 40s in central Minnesota. Not too bad tomorrow, but some wild weather for Wednesday. I'll have hour-by-hour details right after this.